What's up, guys? Welcome back. Another video on the 56 Chevy. Today we're going to attempt to fix some doors. Now this video is a little out of order because it originally got deleted. So I'm going to do a walk around of the car. You're going to see the quarter panels before I patch them. But that's what we're up to now, and I'm just adding to some footage for the video for the doors. So I'm going to get out of this thing before I catch some sort of disease from this seat, and we'll get to work. So lower quarters, definitely not good. The rocker panel, also not good. The door just has some light patina, nothing too bad. And the fender is smoked too, and it's the exact same thing on the other side. So we're going to start with the doors. I actually got a replacement set of doors with this car. So we're going to pull these off, salvage whatever trim I can off of either side, and then we will swap everything over to the new doors. The new ones I'll show you when we get inside, but it looks like they might be off a 210 because the holes for the trim are different. So we're gonna have to come up with a method of transferring these holes over to the new doors. And then something else that's pretty cool. So when I went to pick this thing up, both doors were being closed with a ratchet strap. Just push this fender in so I can open this door. So when I saw that initially, I thought, all right, not a big deal. Doors need to be adjusted. It's pretty common. They've probably been off the car half a dozen times in its life. Not a big deal. And then looking at it closely, so your striker plates are typically bolted through to a plate inside the door jamb that slides and allows you to adjust the door so it'll close properly. And you can see kind of the top hole back there. And this thing is not anywhere close to being aligned. Take a Phillips head real quick. I'm going to remove that and show you what I found. So at some point, somebody couldn't get this last bolt out. They're actually tapered Phillips head screws that center these. The striker itself might be hard to see, but the screws will go in there and kind of center it. It looks like somebody had some trouble getting one of them out and just cut it. See the witness mark from the cut-off wheel there, and that's, I don't know how seized in there that is, but that's going to have to be addressed. So I'm going to pull the doors off this thing. We'll get them up on the table and take a look at what has to get swapped over, and then I'll take a look at the new door and see what kind of work that's going to need. It's time to try and get this broken bolt out of the striker plate here. So I'm just going to clean the head of that up. I'm going to stick a nut on the end of it, hold it with a pair of pliers, and then hopefully weld the nut onto that, hose it down with some WD-40, and hopefully that'll be enough to back it out. So we'll get started with that, and once that's done, we can get our striker plate on in the correct location, and then hopefully bolt our door on, and we might have the ability to close one door in this car. So halfway done. Apparently I threw all my vice grips out, but we do have a pipe wrench. Let's see if we can get that on there. There it is. Not really the conventional way of doing it. Obviously, welding a nut on there is better. Sometimes it just doesn't stick, or you can't actually get enough penetration in there, but it's out. So now, striker plate can go in the factory spot. Obviously, we're going to clean this door jamb up. I might even run a chase through the thread holes in the striker plate. This way it's nice and easy going on, because it's going to have to be adjusted a number of times. It'll actually be nice to have something that closes on the car, because the passenger door doesn't close. The hood didn't close when I got it. It was missing the latch, and the tail panel on the car rotted out 30 years ago, so the latch is long gone. So everything was held together with ratchet straps on this car. So to have one thing close will be nice. So we'll be back in a little bit. The door is off the car on the table inside, and you can see just how bad this thing is. I mean, I can get my entire hand inside here. There's nothing structural left of it. The only thing I'm going to attempt to even save is the window mechanism that's on the inside, and then any of the trim that's around the vent window or the tops of the doors. The majority of this trim that's on the top of the door looks like it's held in with small Phillips head screws, and they all look like they've been underwater for the same amount of time as the door. So I think the plan with those is going to be to see if I can actually just drill them out and then remove the chrome or stainless, and hopefully I don't damage any of it, because this stuff is all very expensive. So I'll get a drill bit, see if we can start getting this stuff off. I was able to salvage all the trim. So I think I'm going to clear this off. We'll put this door up top, and I'll start marking out the holes where we need to drill for the new stainless to transfer it to the other door. All right, so I quickly knocked out the tumbler, the handle, and then the guide inside for the front window, because that actually holds or doesn't allow you to take the lock and handle out. So that's out. Those two are out. I have to figure out a way to get this thing out. Try and do that from up top. And then I'm just going to start knocking this down with the DA, and hopefully we don't find too much Bondo or rot. Looks like somebody did some work on the bottom corner here. Even underneath it is separated a little bit from the frame, but much better than the one that was on there. So start knocking this down and see what we're working with. All right, being that this door is more or less solid up to this ridge right here, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut from probably right around here where the damage really starts, and I'm going to cut flush with this line here all the way back to probably about there. And what I'll do is basically just measure the length of this one lip and then the other lip that comes down that the door skin actually wraps around. And we'll put that in the brake. We'll bend that, and then with this all cleaned up, we should be able to weld that new ledge in there. And then once that's done, we can actually focus on repairing the skin, or the part of the door that you'll actually see. So I'm going to set the camera up. We'll start cutting this out. And then I don't think I'm actually going to cut anything on the front of the skin just yet. But I'll get this damaged piece cut out. We'll get some measurements on that. And then I'm actually going to use what's left of the old door, because it's the same gauge steel, and we'll cut a flat section of that, and then we can start working on rebuilding the bottom of this inner door. So we'll get started with that and see how that comes out. All right, so the bottom of the door is cut. I have the flange cleaned up. Show you what we have so far, and we can start measuring for our replacement piece. And that's the majority of it removed. Set this back up. Take some measurements, and then we can start cutting the old door apart and see what we can salvage from that. All right, so we're going to go 32 3/4 of an inch in length. I also want to see how long that first leg of the bend is going to need to be. That one's going to be about 400 thousandths of an inch. And then the piece that gets tucked inside the door is just about 600. So to make it super easy on myself, because I'm not very good at math, I'm going to call that 600 thousandths of an inch, which means that the whole piece can be 1 inch in width and 32 3/4 of an inch long. I might cut the length a little bit longer just to make sure that these cuts that I made earlier are straight, which they probably aren't because I didn't mark them and I did it while it was upside down. So just to give myself a little bit of room, if I have to trim, I'd rather have it be too long than be too short. So I'll put this off to the side. We'll get the junk door up here. I'm just going to cut a section from one end to the other out of the door, and we can start trimming that down, get it to the exact length that we need, and then we can go ahead and put it in the brake. Okay, new piece is trimmed, free of paint, most of the rust. I marked the center line where I'm going to want to put the 90-degree bend in it based off of the measurements that we took before. So I'm going to go ahead, we'll set this up in the brake over there, and I'll see how it fits. So apparently that piece is too short for this brake. Every time I tried to pull it up, it would basically spit the piece back out. But I am still going to use this piece of flat stock and the brake itself. We're just going to have to use good old-fashioned hammer. Maybe I'll grab a dolly as well. And we're going to have to bend it that way. Not really ideal, being that this is kind of what I bought the brake for, but it happens. Okay, so piece is done. It's not perfect. Obviously, cutting it with an angle grinder is not ideal, but it's close enough to get it in this space. So I'm going to tack weld it probably here, maybe there. And then once I get a little bit of strength in that, I'll start working it all the way across to where it meets the other end. So I fired the welder up, and we'll get started on fitting this. Here's what we got so far. Got the bottom lip welded in, and then I started working on this corner. Somebody must have closed a small child in the door at some point, because this corner was completely killed. This is what I cut out. It was starting to rot out as well. So, got all that damaged metal cut out. I'm going to cut a new strip for the bottom, and we'll start welding that in. Alright, so here's what we got so far. I got that corner welded in, ground down, the entire lip in place. Now I'm going to coat the inside of the door with what's called cavity wax, just because it's fresh metal, and obviously you do have water that's going to get into the door. We want that to get out, so I made sure that all of the drain holes were clear. I have to put the 3 holes on that side because the old ones are rotted out. We replaced that section, so I will end up doing that. And I don't know, see how much the other door needs, but I might want to actually just kind of body work this a little bit. It's the bottom of the door, no one's ever going to see it. Obviously I don't want to load it with filler, but it would be nice to get this all kind of smooth. But we have all fresh new metal in there. Okay, for the door skin, I bought a fresh piece of 18 gauge steel. So I clamped the fresh piece to the door. Basically just marked out a template of what will get rid of all of the rotted metal on the door skin. I have the contour of the door marked on the back side of the sheet metal. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this template off the door. I'll cut the contours, I'll cut the straight line, so we'll have our patch, and then I'm going to lay the patch back on the door, make sure that it fits properly. Especially, I really want to focus on the bottom first to make sure that the curvature of the door skin is correct. And then once I have that in position, I'll lay this back on, and I'm just going to do what they call the cut and butt method. So I'll just cut this with the skin underneath it, and then as I go, I'll just tack it in place to the door skin, and that'll keep everything kind of in line and straight, and hopefully that works. Because I really don't have to buy another door for this thing. So let's see what happens. I still have a fair bit of grinding to do, but that lower door patch is welded in. The corner shaped up over there. And I'll show you what I did on the underside. Hang on one sec. And then underneath this corner here, not pretty, but there was a pretty big hole there. So we got that filled in. And then for the bottom of the door, I cut a strip about 1 inch in width. And then I put it on that other lip that we made and just clamped it down with vice grips and just welded up the seam on the bottom. So this thing is rock solid now. Before we did this, the door skin appeared to be in good shape, but if you pressed it or really like moved the door around, you could see it kind of like shaking around. So no more of that. See, same thing on this side, wrapped around the edge. I still have to put those drain holes in on the other side. But I'm letting this thing cool down for a little bit because I put a lot of heat into it between welding and grinding. This took me 5 or 6 hours today. So I did my best to take my time, but I still rush jobs like this. I haven't learned yet. So there's I definitely warped that panel. Not terribly, but I can see it. So it is going to need some filler. Much better than it was before. There's all metal. It'll be very, very little filler. So yeah, next time you guys see this, hopefully we'll have the first layer of filler on. We can start sanding and then fitting it to the car. So the bottom of the door is back together. Just kind of refresh you guys on what was actually cut out. So this was the lower corner down here. This long, thinner section was the first part we cut out of the door to actually start rebuilding the underside of it. And then this was just more of the skin that we replaced. Because back in here, it had a little bit of corrosion. There was a decent amount of filler in there. Backside didn't look too bad, but we also rebuilt the part of the skin that wraps around the bottom of the door. So this door is ready to go back on. It's not, the bodywork isn't finished yet. I obviously went over the line where we welded the new patch in and got it, I would say 90% of the way there. This car is still going to require a good amount of bodywork, blocking. We'll end up doing guide coat on there. But I kind of want to do all the final bodywork once I have the rest of the sheet metal done on the car. All right, with the majority of the sanding done on the passenger door, it's definitely in much better shape than the driver's side. So we have this area here, a couple of small pinholes. This area here is not good. These guys, I think I'll be able to just clean those up a little bit and possibly just fill those up with weld, sand them flush. We should be good with that. I have to do a patch here and one here too, because this is not only rotted but kind of dented. And then there's one small area right there. But other than that, the rest of this door looks pretty good. I took the majority of the paint off. Obviously, I'm going to get it down to bare metal, but definitely a better starting point than the driver's door. So I'm going to weld up these holes, make a couple patches, continue sanding. We'll get this in one color, and we can start getting it on the car. And passenger door is done. So that was the biggest problem here. I cut that out, put a small patch in there. Just put a light coat of filler over this just so it looks presentable, because every time I see the car look more like a car, it motivates me to work on it. So with that done, time to hang this door. And I think what I'm going to do is just slide it over the hinges, not bolt anything down, close it, and see if I can prop it up a little bit, maybe on the rocker, something like that, get it aligned, and then I'll climb through the other side with a Tyvek suit on and bolt it up, and hopefully it'll be close. I'll probably have to play with the striker a little bit, but I want the door lined up. Obviously it's coming off again because the body's coming off the frame, but I want the door on there before I weld the rocker on, just so I have a little bit of reference. So I'm going to grab the door, struggle to get that up there, probably drop it on my foot, but I got boots, so it's okay. I'll see you in a minute. Okay, door is mounted in one color. Check this out. It's actually latched. Car has one closing door. Pretty exciting. Obviously still some adjustment needed on the door, but the big thing is the gap on the bottom is pretty close. And by pretty close, I mean close enough for me to start welding the rocker in. Okay, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Made a lot of progress on this one. It's actually starting to look like a car, which is pretty exciting. Next video is going to be rockers. There's plenty more metal repair to be done on this car. I actually just noticed this around the rear window, so looking forward to that. We have some work on the trunk pan, the floor, lots to do, but it's getting there. See you guys in the next one.